tense situation with another world power, and he decided to make up.
It's like our country's being run by the maniac from Saw. You know, Donald Jigsaw Trump is running this. And of course, the big question, one of the big questions besides, are you out of your damn mind, is if you pull all the Palestinians out of Palestine, who would then...
Here's something you didn't see coming. Will Ferrell just torched Donald Trump so hard that even Mar-a-Lago's gold-plated Wi-Fi probably short-circuited. No cue cards, no prompter fail. Just pure, unscripted comedy gold. But what did he say that left everyone gasping between belly laughs? Buckle up, because this might be the greatest Trump roast of all time. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about politics, it's about facts. And here's a wild one.
Donald Trump, what do you think of him? What would your diagnosis be of him?
Well, I project into the future, and I wonder sometimes just exactly how diplomacy would play out with him.
I'm not hysterical. I laugh when people say, oh, you've got Trump derangement syndrome. I think if you're a reasonable person, you should have Trump derangement syndrome. And by the way, I think he has derangement syndrome about us, too. The fact of the matter is, this is a dangerous person. This is a stupid person. And that's a bad combination. And I think what we're forgetting, I keep forgetting it, and I have to keep reminding myself, is he's not just running for president. He's running...
Trump allegedly struts around the White House in the buff. Yep, full-on emperor with no-clothes energy. My kid even chimed in today. He acts like a toddler so much he should just wear a diaper. Boom, game over. Now, imagine someone at a press briefing actually saying that. Mr. Trump, sir, have you considered a diaper? You just know he'd lose it on the spot. Fair.
When you were younger, you were an aimless loser.
Weak and incompetent.
You're saying, I'm a liar. I've lied in court.
Yeah.
Are you delusional?
Ferrell didn't just land a few punches. He completely dismantled Trump in real time. No script, no filter, just Ferrell at his unhinged best. And honestly, it wasn't even a fair match. A world-class comedian versus a guy who unknowingly delivers his own punchlines? That's like watching a heavyweight boxer go 10 rounds with a piñata.
Tour on the campaign tour with Donald Trump, I can assume?
Well, he hasn't asked me.
Is there a medical term for what it seems like he is experiencing right now?
Well, I think he's a little upset.
Okay.
One stuffed with spray tan, overcooked steaks, and a stack of unpaid legal bills. Remember when Trump used to whine about gotcha questions? Like, why are we going to war? Why didn't you handle Hurricane Katrina? What's your middle name? Gotcha. If only he had figured out sooner that all he had to do was yell fake news on repeat. But let's be real. His presidency was already a 4-year comedy special. The fact that Ferrell still found new material is almost impressive, considering mocking Trump is like roasting a clown for wearing oversized shoes. It just writes itself. So, what did Ferrell actually say? Picture a guy so ridiculously overconfident he once stared directly at a solar eclipse with his bare eyes. Now imagine that same guy getting verbally destroyed by one of the greatest comedic minds of our time. If that sounds like a dream, trust me. It was even funnier in real life. And if you're loving this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Ferrell didn't just poke fun at Trump's latest desperate ploy for attention, he went full-blown scorched earth. And let's be honest, it was long overdue. Because somehow, after losing an election, getting impeached twice, and making cover a real word, Trump...
Question, Donald Trump, let's indulge the thought that you are going to run for the presidency of the United States in the year 2016. What's the slogan going to be?
I think my slogan would be, Make America Great Again.
That's too long. Come on with something pithier.
No, Make America Great Again. You're talking about 4 words. I think it's a very precise slogan. I mean, that would probably be my slogan, Make America Great Again. Tremendous potential in this country, but we're not using it. We don't have the leadership.
The country is going to
boom, just so you know.
Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater.
Mr. President,
and remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to Americans?
If you look at what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it. We're going to make America great again.
Still acts like he's the lead character in America's story. Spoiler alert. He's the side character that gets written out early because audiences find him exhausting. Naturally, Trump will pretend this never happened. That's his move. Deny, deflect, and rage post on Truth Social. If history has taught us anything, it's that Trump handles criticism about as well as a cat being forced into a bathtub. But hey, self-awareness was never part of his skill set. Will Ferrell knew exactly what he was doing. The man has played everything from a clueless news anchor to an oversized Christmas elf. But even he had to admit, Trump might be the most absurd character he's ever encountered. And that's saying something, considering this is the same guy who once starred in a movie where he and John C. Reilly built bunk beds together. And let's talk about the walking around naked thing for a second. Does Trump actually think he still has a fantastic body? Look, this isn't about body shaming. It's not even about that. He can look however he wants. He really can. Just maybe act like a professional. Be even slightly presidential. That's all anyone is asking for. Or, at the very least, lose like a president. Maybe Ferrell saw Trump's latest rally and thought, wow, this guy is really out here delivering monologues that make Anchorman look like a TED Talk. Maybe he just got tired of watching Trump stumble through life like a reality show contestant who refuses to accept elimination. Either way, Ferrell didn't hold back. He roasted Trump's greatest hits, the bizarre hand gestures that make him look like he's conducting an invisible orchestra of hamsters, the vocabulary that consists of maybe 12 words, 3 of which are "believe me," and, of course, those legendary dance moves that resemble a grandpa trying to shake a bee out of his pant leg. But this wasn't just comedy. It was a full-blown masterclass in exposing absurdity. The business failures, the lawsuits, the desperate hunger for relevance. This is a man who once bragged about hiring only the best people, and now spends most of his time either bad-mouthing them or watching them testify against him in court. It's almost poetic. And yet, somehow, Trump still believes he's the hero of this story. A bold take for a guy whose biggest contribution to culture in the last decade was convincing people that a red hat counts as a personality. Ferrell reminded us why Trump is, and always will be, the political equivalent of a blooper reel, a walking, talking contradiction who rants about fake news while making up more stories than a kid caught with cookie crumbs on their face. And if that wasn't enough, just look at the sheer desperation at play. This is a man who spent 4 years in office behaving like a reality TV villain, and now he wants to be taken seriously as a statesman? Sir, you once held up a Bible like you had never seen one before and suggested injecting bleach to cure a virus. Your credibility left the building ages ago. And those rallies? Have you ever seen someone lose a competition and then spend years holding "I actually won" parties? It's like if the runner-up on American Idol refused to leave the stage and just kept singing over the winner. The delusion is next level. But the wildest part? The people who still buy into it. The crowd that cheers for a so-called billionaire who whines about being a victim, from a literal golden toilet. The guy is the ultimate con artist, yet somehow people treat him like the underdog. If Trump is an underdog, then McDonald's is a family-owned bistro. This election is shaping up to be one of the tightest in history. And yes, Gary, I'm talking to you. Oh, but I'm just one person. You whine. Shut up, Gary. Last time, a few thousand votes kept Trump out of office, and this time, we're holding you personally responsible. No pressure. Now, let's get into the legal circus, because at this point, it deserves its own miniseries. Financial fraud, hush money, classified documents. It's all there, starring America's favorite orange defendant. If Trump's legal troubles were a Netflix show, we'd be on season 5 with no signs of cancellation. And his defense? The classics. Yelling "witch hunt," blaming the deep state, and suddenly forgetting how anything works. One moment, he's a brilliant businessman. The next, he is a confused grandpa under oath. It's a performance for the ages. And let's be real. When people start saying, "Man, I never thought I'd miss George W. Bush, but here we are," you know things have gone off the rails. Trump has managed to lower the bar so much that past presidents are looking good by sheer comparison. And the scariest part? He's not even finished. So buckle up, because this election cycle is about to be a wild ride, and we're all just strapped into this roller coaster of nonsense. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that reality is often stranger than satire. But that doesn't mean we can't laugh along the way. My fellow Americans, I come before you tonight not as a leader, but as a cautionary tale. Look, I know the current guy isn't exactly winning popularity contests, and I get why some of you are frustrated. But please, For the love of all things decent, don't go romanticizing my time in office. Let's not pretend it was some golden era of leadership. I mean, I voted for Jill Stein. That should tell you something. But let's talk about the guy who came after me. Trump once swore he'd run America like one of his businesses, and well, he did. Just like his casinos, the country ended up bankrupt and drowning in lawsuits. Who could have seen that coming? Oh, right. Literally everyone. Meanwhile, Trump Tower, once a tacky symbol of excess, is now a glorified tourist trap, where you can buy a $30 MAGA mug and a false sense of nostalgia. And while Trump spends his days rage-watching Fox News and hosting golf tournaments that no one cares about, Will Ferrell is thriving, making movies, making people laugh, and living his best life. The contrast is almost poetic. One man clings desperately to relevance, while the other effortlessly is relevant. The truth is, Trump isn't a leader anymore. He's a relic. A fading reality star trying to convince an ever-shrinking audience that the show is still worth watching. But hey, at least he'll always have his golf cart, his legal bills, and his growing collection of mugshots. And if he ever wants to vent about that, well, there's always Truth Social. Not that anyone's reading it. Let's take a trip down memory lane, back to when Trump was at his peak, or at least when someone was portraying him better than he ever could. Enter Alec Baldwin, stepping onto the SNL stage in a wig that probably had more structure than Trump's policies. The exaggerated scowl, the frantic hand gestures, the unhinged rants. It was like watching a man possessed by the spirit of a disgruntled real estate mogul. Every sniffle, every incoherent tangent, every cartoonish expression was so dead on that even Trump himself couldn't help but react. And react he did, furiously tweeting at 3 a.m., because if there's one thing that upsets Trump more than a cold cheeseburger, it's someone making fun of him. Remember when Trump bragged about his foreign relations skills? I know the Mexican president. I forget his name. Maybe Señor Guacamole. Wonderful guy. His wife, lovely woman, taquito, beautiful family, chips and salsa. That's the level of parody Baldwin delivered effortlessly. He didn't just imitate Trump, he became him. To the point where you half expected him to stroll into Mar-a-Lago, demand a well-done steak drowned in ketchup, and declare himself the winner of an election that happened years ago. And then came the moment. The one that rattled the gilded walls of Trump's Florida retreat. Maybe it was a devastating one-liner, a ridiculous dance move, or that slow, dramatic removal of the wig as he locked eyes with the camera, daring Trump to fire off another rage tweet. And, of course, Trump took the bait every single time. His fingers moved faster than his ability to take responsibility, launching all-caps rants about how SNL was not funny, unwatchable, failing. Coming from the guy who thought The Apprentice was high art, that's saying something. Trump has always loved throwing jabs, calling people weak, nasty, or losers. But the second someone poked fun at him, suddenly, it was a national crisis. The irony is almost too much. A man who bulldozed through criticism for decades, yet a single comedy sketch sent him spiraling. He could tank the economy and insult world leaders, but heaven forbid someone mock his hand gestures. You'd think a guy from New York would have thicker skin, but nope. So let's not rewrite history. Let's not pretend Trump was some brilliant strategist instead of a reality TV host who stumbled into power. If nothing else, his post-presidency has been the ultimate tragicomedy, playing out in real time, with Trump clinging to relevance like a washed-up actor who refuses to leave Hollywood. And for that, I say, thank you, Will Ferrell. Thank you, Alec Baldwin. And most of all, thank you, America, for finally changing the channel. Trump likes to act tough. But the second Baldwin put on that wig, he crumbled faster than a reality show contestant eliminated in the first round. That's the kicker. He spent years dishing out insults, yet a single SNL skit had him spiraling into a meltdown. Let's give credit where it's due. Trump was a job creator for comedians. Without him, where would late-night hosts, stand-up comics, and Twitter satirists be? His presidency wasn't just a political disaster. It was a comedy stimulus package. Every rambling rally, every press conference where he strung words together like a toddler assembling mismatched Legos, every moment he hugged the American flag like it was the last friend he had left. It was gold. And even now, years after his reality TV presidency ended, he's still out there, fumbling through speeches, spinning election losses into victories, and desperately trying to stay in the spotlight. At least Baldwin got to retire the wig. Trump? He'll always be playing the part of a joke. Trump's presidency was many things. Unprecedented, chaotic, wildly unpredictable. But above all, it was hilarious. Not intentionally, of course. No, Trump took himself far too seriously for that. But the moment Alec Baldwin stepped onto SNL's stage, something magical happened. It wasn't just an impression. It was a mirror and Trump. He hated what he saw. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Picture Trump's first press conference as president-elect. Hello, thank you for coming. Let's address the question on everyone's mind. Yes, this is real. This is actually happening. On January 20th, I, Donald J. Trump, will become the 45th President of the United States, and about 2 months later, Mike Pence will become the 46th. The thing about Trump is that his whole brand revolves around taking himself way too seriously. Baldwin's impression wasn't just a comedy sketch, it was an existential crisis for a man who believes he's the most persecuted billionaire in history. Imagine being so thin-skinned that a late-night comedy show sends you into a multi-day Twitter meltdown. Baldwin didn't have to exaggerate much. He just held up a funhouse mirror. And Trump? He couldn't handle it. But let's be honest, Trump is the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to comedy. His hyperbole is unmatched. If he stubbed his toe, he'd probably call it the most tragic injury in human history. His speeches? They were like freestyle rap battles where he forgot every other word. Baldwin took that absurdity and dialed it up just a notch. Not that Trump needed much exaggeration. Remember when Trump sent Mike Pence to an NFL game just so he could storm out in outrage when players took a knee? Or when his speeches felt like watching a guy try to explain a book he never read? Baldwin, and even Will Ferrell, nailed his mannerisms so well that Trump probably started believing his own impersonators were out to get him. The smug grin, the exaggerated hand gestures, the way he stood there looking perpetually bewildered. It all highlighted just how easy it was to lampoon a man who was already a parody of himself. And the best part? The more Trump raged about it, the funnier it got. There's nothing more entertaining than a guy who built a career on dishing out insults but completely loses it when the joke's on him. And that, folks, is what we call comedy gold.